Okay, so due to a trip to a 3-day trip during the week, I was unable to watch the Dark Beginnings episode 3. Keep in mind that I will not be putting my reaction here because that would probably would be very bland. I will be in this video. I'll just be talking about everything we know uh a week before the game comes out. Because the day this video is recorded, a week from tomorrow is when the day comes out for early access, which is when I will be live streaming the game. Anyway, I'm getting a bit sidetracked, so let's begin. To quickly summarize the story of Shadow Generations, basically what it can be boiled down to is Shadow is having his own standalone campaign, which is bundled with the 2013 game, I think, from the Sonic Generations, which was received relatively well and is a pretty good game. In this game, however, we're digging a bit more into the time travel aspects of what the Time Eater can do, as seen in the story trailer. Not only are we going to have Maria and Gerald in speaking and actual story-related roles for the first time in about, I don't know, over 25 years. It's like 20, 21 years. But they will have something to do with how Shadow's character will be written. Because in the Dark Beginnings, which builds up to the story, he's getting nightmares, presumably from Black Doom, who is already on the colony arc before the Time Eater does anything, even though the Time Eater, like, the gun has Time Eater info because Eggman's doing something. I don't know. We'll figure that out when the game comes out and how that works. But basically, Black Doom's already there, and he's been giving Shadow nightmares. These nightmares are shown in the first episode of Dark Beginnings, where he kind of cycles through his, like, most of his past before Maria gets shot. And it's, yeah, Black Doom's definitely trying to manipulate Shadow, to some extent at least. But we end with Shadow getting on a rocket and flying to the colony arc, which means that the game probably starts out with maybe like a short intro cinematic showcasing who Shadow is as a character, according to like some Twitter post that I'm not in the loop in. But yeah, that might happen, and then we immediately jump into Act 1 of Space Colony Arc, which makes sense because of the lines that we've seen him speak in the clips we've been shown. But basically, that summarizes the story as of a week before its release, and as an inexperienced person at talking about this kind of stuff the way that I'm doing it. Moving on, before we get to anything else, I'm going to start with the bosses. Now, recently we discovered that Sonic will not be one of the bosses and will be reduced to a cutscene, which is fine. Which, yeah, it makes sense. Like, how would you... The engine differences and the way that Sonic always wins the fight anyway. But regardless, We do have a pretty stacked line of bosses in this game too. Now, uh, according to maybe some leaks that I might have looked at, there might be two of the same technically boss, but starting off with the final hazard, or the bio lizard, as the boss will be in this game. The bio lizard originated in the 2001 sequel to Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, as the penultimate boss to the final hazard, which technically is the same thing, except it's stronger and it's a supersonic boss, and they're trying to keep it from crashing into the planet. But the one we'll be getting is a completely really designed and really, really good looking version of the Biolizard fight. I'm excited for this, mostly because of its theme supporting me, which I, up until recently, didn't care for, but I listened to it for the first time like a couple months ago, and it's really good. So, opinions aside, uh, we have seen the entirety of this and Metal Overlord's boss, which is kind of spoilery, but they both look really good. Speaking of Metal Overlord originated from Sonic Heroes. I probably should have written down the dates of which they released beforehand. I'll put the date at the bottom of the screen if I remember to edit that in. But yeah, Metal Overlord originated from the game Sonic Heroes, which was a bit out of left field, kinda, in the way that for the entirety of the game he was like neo metal Sonic, which is a cool design. Shame we aren't gonna see him like redone, reanimated. Oh, unless we get like a throwback intro cutscene, which we probably won't, but one can dream. Anyway, yeah, this is the evolved version of Metal Sonic after he's attained the form of Neo Metal Sonic and captured Eggman, which is the whole reason the chaotic story happens. But he sets everything up. That stuff happens. Everyone gets there, and then Sonic has to turn super, and then Tails and Knuckles turn into pseudo super forms, kinda, which is kind of unfortunate for what it was. But then they destroy him, and that's how Heroes ends. In the same way that modern Sonic was able to defeat chaos, perfect chaos in base, it's kind of the same here, and with the potential boss that we'll talk about in a minute, where Metal Overlord took a super form and two pseudo super forms, whereas now he's a bit smaller, and his attacks are a bit smaller too. But basically, he is shows how powerful or how much stronger the main hedgehogs have become since their original fights between these two. For Memphis, Tennessee, he was the one that practically the entire fan base was hoping would be a fight in this game. Very happy he is a fight in this game. We're getting such good 06 representation, and I'm playing Project 06. Really good, you should check it out. But he originated from the underwhelming at best game Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Now, as shown by Project 06, that game had the potential to be amazing. Its story was pretty good, aside from a kissing scene, but nonetheless, the game itself is really good. To clarify, I am talking about Project 06. I do have the original game on my Xbox 360. Not touching that. But yeah, I was really excited for Mephiles to make an appearance as a boss. It's been speculated ever since, Kingdom Valley has been here. I don't really know what his original boss was like, because only really Shadow fought him and Sonic never saw him. But yeah, super excited for Memphis to make his grand return and have conversations with Shadow. Now, for the last two, it's kind of the same person. We are talking about Black Doom, which is the obvious final boss of the game. I say final two because there are 5 bosses, and according to the tweet, I'm pretty sure that it's just Black Doom and then, like, the biblically accurate thing that is Black Doom, I guess. I don't know what that is, but biblically accurate Doom, as we'll call him, who is pulling the strings in Shadow's white space. It's probably going to be the way Shadow fights him. And I think we have like the intro cutscene like already from the story trailer. We see him like use like everything's like red, the sky's dreary, everything's like falling apart. And with the radical highway stuff in the back behind him. Then he does the really really good animation for when he like gets the wings, and he flies up to Devil Doom before it cuts to something else. I feel like that's going to be the cutscene like right before the final boss, because I just get the feeling that that's how it's going to build up to the boss. Okay, let's next part. Let's quickly run through the stages. Now, it's a bit of a background on how the stages will work in Shadow Generations. They are all pretty decently long. We've seen fully 2 stages: Space Colony Arc and Kingdom Valley. What it seems to be is the first act of each stage is fully 3D, which is a bit of a thing that I like better than the original Generations, where Act 1 had 2D sections and 3D sections, which, I mean, if you're gonna have classic and modern Sonic, you might as well have all 3D and all 2D separately. But ranting aside, the game is still pretty good. Anyway, the list of stages we have, to my knowledge, is Space Colony Arc, Rail Canyon, Kingdom Valley, Chaos Island, and Sunset Heights. In that order, maybe? Probably not. Maybe it's Space Colony, Rail Canyon, Kingdom Valley, Sunset Heights, and Kingdom Valley. I mean, not Kingdom Valley, Chaos Island. That would make more sense. But regardless, these stages represent games that Shadow has been in. Well, I mean, on Chaos Island, he was explicitly met. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so on Chaos Island, in one part of the map, Shadow is explicitly mentioned. Sonic's like, I'd even ask for Shadow's help right about now, which is pretty neat. I didn't really think of it before. But yeah. What's interesting to me about Chaos Island, though, is the volcano erupting. It's probably not going to happen, but when the Chaos Island volcano erupted, that's like like when you finish the pinball mini game and then you go to Fight Night. So are we gonna see Chaos? I mean, Supersonic fighting Knight, or is this gonna be? I don't know. It might just be for cool factor, which it being like it'll be a little cooler if it's Supersonic versus Knight in the background, but if it's not, then it's like who cares? It would just be missed potential, and that's it, in my opinion. Because at first, when I thought about it, I'm like, Chaos Island, that's kind of meh stage to pick when you have so many good ones. Then I realized that all the good ones probably already been picked already. You could probably pick a couple more stages from SA2, Shadow 5, Heroes, even 06. I want them to do like a Westopolis or Black Comet stage, even though I don't think that's gonna happen. It would be cool to have like an actual full stage of Radical Highway, but we have like two different scene changes, like one in Space Colony Arc and the other in Sunset Heights for Radical Highway. And even if Radical Highway isn't in this game, mods probably will have it by the end of this year if we're lucky, I guess. But regardless, this is a very stacked lineup of stages for what it is, for what the games we chose. And I could go into detail, but I really don't want to sound like an idiot. The only two I really know about are Chaos Island and Sunset Heights. I guess Kingdom Valley, but it's gonna work completely differently the way it was. Because I played Shadow on Project 6 again, great game. Played on Shadow's Kingdom Valley, and it starts with a like a hovercraft section and a Rouge section, but yeah, that's as you can probably guess, that's not going to be the case. Speaking of other characters, now back to what I was saying about the Sonic boss, or the Sonic cutscene rather. When that plays out, we have Rouge talking to Shadow about what happened. And it also made me remember in the Doom Powers trailer, like way off in the distance, you can see Omega popping in front of the Space Colony arc, which shows that Omega's going to be there. And Rouge being there probably doesn't really impact the story of Sonic Generations, because it's kind of like she's there, but like she's just there to exist as a model that just barely moves. Which makes me. I'm glad that Team Dark is going to interact in Shadow Generations, because if they left Rouge in Sonic's white space, like where she just didn't do anything, it would be heavily wasted potential. But good thing it's not being wasted. And the way the story trailer sets it up as we have to go, like Maria and Gerald are going to be like late game NPCs, unlike Rouge and Omega, which are probably going to be early game NPCs, which we could probably save Omega. I don't know about Rouge though. I mean, she probably could just like portal in and be like, "Hey, I'm here now. Sonic says hi," or whatever. Another thing involving Rouge and that cutscene with Sonic makes me question how if the ending cutscene for the final boss in that game is going to be changed, at least a little bit, because he drops a fake Chaos Emerald, which Sonic takes, which allows Shadow to keep using Chaos Control. But it means that Sonic is holding onto a fraud emerald. So does that mean that it either means that you can use fraud emeralds to go super, which probably will not happen, or they're gonna have like a separate cutscene of another like crossover between the two games in which Shadow gives Sonic the real emerald at the end of his campaign, which might happen before the end of Sonic's campaign. There's still a hope in the back of my mind that we'll get like a final story for this, which is not gonna happen, I'm pretty sure. It would be absolutely amazing if we had a Sonic and Super Sonic and Super Shadow boss fight to cap off these two campaigns, but I doubt that's gonna happen. With Hedgehog Engine 2 being kind of funky, and the way that I'm just now remembering how Doom Wing works. It's basically just a super form because you need 50 rings to initiate the wing, which also proves how it shows us how the final boss is going to work. There was a leak of like this drawing thing, which might be true, where it was alluding to Doomwing Shadow fighting, like flying around and fighting biblically accurate Doom. Which, honestly, that would be pretty cool. We have Winged Shadow fighting a biblically accurate Black Doom. That would be a pretty cool way to cap off Shadow's campaign. In all honesty, I want two things. Interactions with, I really just want interactions between Team Dark and Maria. Because they gotta have some conversations between Maria and his new friends, his new partners, Rouge and Omega. If they don't do it, we'll have more time with Shadow and Maria, which is a good thing. There's a lot of things that we Sonic fans feel that we need out of this game, and some of them are kind of just not necessary. I'm not going to go into that because there's a lot of things that I think that would be really cool that we don't. That's probably not going to happen because of the constrictions. I mean, the limitations have been heavily lowered since Ian Flynn has joined the writing team. But yeah, that wraps this section up.